Good sound in a video is incredibly important. I think we all read or heard it. You can get away with wobbly video and perhaps the odd moment where you're out of focus as long as you don't overdo it. But mess up your sound and people will click away faster than you can say ADHD. Welcome to another rare episode of Kit in the Kitchen. Just to get this out of the way, I'm going to talk about a few specific pieces of equipment, all of which I have bought and some subsequently sold myself. Not one of the manufacturers even knows about my existence. So there's no sponsoring going on here. I found a way to record good sound by my standard using timecode whilst keeping my equipment lightweight, my workflow reasonably streamlined without breaking the bank or perhaps only slightly breaking it. If you want to find out how easily you can do the same, then stay tuned. I think we don't need to discuss camera built-in microphones. They sound terrible. Having said that, and as usual, the iPhone sometimes really surprises me. I am using a mirrorless hybrid camera, the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II X, and I've discussed this choice in a previous video. Obviously, the camera has its pros and cons, but all in all, I would make the exact same choice today. One of the cons, and that will become important in a minute, is that it has no dedicated timecode port. For sound, I'm using a Rode VideoMic NTG sitting on the hot shoe of the camera and plugged into the 3.5mm mic input port. The NTG gives me good enough sound, perhaps not the best possible, but it has one huge advantage. It comes with its own preamplifier, and that is, compared with the camera's built-in one, superb. What I do is adjust the camera gain to -18 dB, the lowest possible standard setting, and then crank up the microphone gain to level 8. That, I've tried out, gives me the best input level, about -6 dB max for when I'm outdoors talking fairly loudly to the camera in vlogging mode, if you know what I mean. Now, sometimes I need to talk while moving around at a distance from the camera or while the camera is facing forward with me behind it. Also, quite often I'm recording in very windy conditions. In those cases, I need a lavalier mic with a separate recorder. Specifically, I've been using the Sennheiser MKE2, that's omnidirectional, plugged into a Zoom F2, which is absolutely beautiful, easy to use and dead reliable. The batteries last for many hours, and as they are external AAAs, you can then just swap them for fresh ones and carry on. With the big, fluffy dead kitten I'm using, there's virtually no wind noise even in the harshest conditions. And we are talking about February on a British Lake District peak here, just for one example. Now, there's one catch. I come home with an audio file that is a few hours long. I would have started the audio recording when I leave the hotel or the car and then just left it running all day. And that needs to be synchronized to many video files I've recorded during that session. The process of sifting through that long audio file, finding the relevant sections and matching them to the in-camera audio-video by looking at the waveforms, can take several hours. And so, for some time now, I've been thinking about using timecode. What is timecode? Every electronic recording device has a built-in clock. It needs it to determine when the time has come to record the next picture, say once every 40 milliseconds at 25 frames per second. If you are filming, or to sample microphone signal once every 21 odd microseconds for 48 kilohertz sampling frequency, if you are recording sound. Now, since it has a built-in clock anyway, it might as well go ahead and attach the time of day with every picture it saves for future reference. That is exactly what all those devices do, and the information is called timecode. When you pull two files into your editor, you only need to make sure that you place them at the correct point in your timeline based on the time information within the file, and your sound and video should match perfectly without that searching and shifting. Easy enough. Why haven't we all been doing it all along? You could say that timecode has been around since we started recording things digitally more than 40 years ago. True, but to make it useful for your workflow today, you have to turn things up a notch or two. Try this. Go into your video editor and shift two audio tracks that contain overlapping information back and forth on the timeline by as little as 2 or 3 frames at 24 frames per second. And things will start sounding horrible, which means the timing precision you need to work with in editing has to be on the level of 40 milliseconds. A clock that gives you such a level of precision over a span of several hours has to be very precise. 5 hours times 3,600 seconds per hour times 24 frames per second is a total of 518,400 frames. That's more than 500,000 frames. But you have at least 2 files you are shifting against each other, so the uncertainty in time adds up by about a factor 2. This means that your timing has to be precise on the level of 1 second in 1 million seconds, or, as we like to say, 1 ppm, 1 parts per million. A good timecode device these days is quoted to having a precision of 0.5 ppm, not that much more precise than is absolutely necessary. A quartz wristwatch, a device that I thought was just about infinitely precise when I was a child long ago, has a precision of about 10 ppm if it's a really good one. Total rubbish for what's required in video and sound editing. Luckily, we can buy fantastically precise, temperature-compensated timecode devices today for a few $100s each, but still, that's not exactly cheap. And there are other reasons why it's not that easy. The Lumix S5 Mark II has no dedicated timecode input, and please, Panasonic, why not on a camera that's got video written all over it? Oh, and while I'm at it, just a random addition. Why on earth is there no tally light? I mean, there's a perfectly fine autofocus assist lamp. Could we have a firmware upgrade that enables that as a tally light? Please? Also, my nice little Zoom F2, lovely piece of kit as it is, let's say struggles with timecode. To sync it, you need an external Atomos UltraSync Bluetooth timecode generator. That is the only device that allows you to synchronize your Zoom F2, and it comes at another €180, pounds, dollars, and is also yet another device to manage and carry around all the time. If for some reason the Bluetooth connection fails or has a hiccup during your shoot, your timecode on the F2 is likely to be messed up. Left to itself, it has a precision of some 2 ppm, and that gives it standalone reserve for only an hour. Not good enough. And so that's where I left it a year ago. I continue to carefully sift through my miles-long 32-bit audio files, extracting and matching up the sound snippets, while muttering strange oaths. And then came the interview. The Uffington White Horse is preparing a comeback. Watch the video I made last year with many of you commenting that I should produce a sequel once the publication by the archaeologists is released. Well, that sequel is on its way. Cotswold Archaeology in the UK kindly agreed to host Charles and myself to talk about the publication that was released towards the end of last year, 2023. We had a long chat and subsequent walk around Wantage, birthplace of Alfred the Great, and then around Sexbury Camp, the Iron Age hill fort. That gave the book its name. Actually, I should be cutting that video instead of sitting here blathering about timecode workflow. But you either have attention deficit or you don't. That's just the way it is. I needed 2 additional audio recorders for that interview because I could not risk coming back from such a unique opportunity with bad sound. And so, after some research, I decided to get the Rode Wireless Pro Kit, which comes with 2 transmitters that record timecode internally and very high-level audio files internally, and the timecode synchronized with a receiver unit with a precision of half a ppm. For that interview, there was no time to implement timecode workflow. I came back with 4 audio tracks, 3 body recorders and 1 in the camera, which I had to get synced up. It took me hours. And I swore that was the last time. Timecode had to become part of my shooting routine. But how? On the camera side, the only way is to record timecode on an audio track. Fine. You could easily use something like the Deity TC1 timecode generator that you can mount on your camera and then plug it into the microphone input of your camera. That would give you a time signal on one of the channels and the Deity TC1 scratch audio on the other channel. I don't like it, and here's why. I want that Rode VideoMic NTG always sitting on my camera while I'm shooting, so that, firstly, I have decent backup sound I can work with just in case there's a problem with the on-body recorder or lavalier mic. And secondly, I like to record environmental sound as well and mix that into my final audio track. Chirping birds, bleating sheep, the rush of a forest stream, and I want all that to be recorded with decent quality. For me, there is no way around a good adjustable gain microphone attached to the camera. And now I have the Wireless Pro system. I can set the receiver up to output timecode only on both channels. The easiest way to do this is via the Rode Central app on your computer. Select the receiver in the device list, click on the output scheme on the left. Select the bottommost option timecode 5 and click Apply. Remember, the transmitters record their own high-quality sound files anyway. Then, I connect the receiver and the on-camera microphone to the camera's mic input using a splitter cable. In this case, a Rode SC1, but you could also use the Sennheiser CL35Y, or make one yourself from 2 patch cables. You need to remember to lower the output level on the Rode Wireless Pro all the way down to -30 dB, because in timecode 5 setting the receiver is shouting its timecode out as loud as it can to jam sync other timecode devices. That will actually come in quite handy in a minute. What that does is it records the on-camera microphone into one channel and the timecode signal into the other. The little transmitters produce their own onboard files with the automatically synced timecode information embedded into the metadata of the audio files. Splendid. One more step in my case, just because I want to have the option of 3 external audio channels, and because if I have the choice, I prefer recorders with exchangeable batteries. I have recently swapped my trusted Zoom F2 for the new Deity PR2. It essentially does the same as the F2, except that it has a state-of-the-art internal clock and handles timecode according to the international SMPTE standard. This means that you can synchronize it, jam sync, as people like to say, with any other SMPTE-compliant device, and the Rode Wireless Pro happens to be one of those. Just fire up the Deity PR2, press the record menu button, navigate 1 down to timecode, select mode auto, and then briefly plug in a patch cable connected to the output of the Wireless Pro. Immediately, the PR2 picks up the SMPTE signal and adjusts its own clock accordingly. Unplug and you are good to record for at least 4 hours. Back at your computer, you load the video and audio files into the editor of your choice and, as a first step, copy the timecode from the left or right audio track of your video file into the timecode metadata. In DaVinci Resolve, that's just right-clicking on the video file and select Update Timecode from Audio Track. That will give you a video file on par with one recorded with a professional video camera with timecode embedded in its metadata. If, however, you're using Apple Final Cut Pro, like I did until a week ago, you're out of luck. If, like me, you have paid the €300 license fee just to realize that Apple has no intention whatsoever to ever implement the relatively easy-to-code timecode import from audio track, you may even start to question your whole platform decision. And would you look at that? DaVinci Resolve, with its very capable free version, also comes as a download for Linux. Just saying. The workflow in DaVinci Resolve has been shown by many others, so I'll skip that here. Except, of course, if I get many comments asking me to do it. Thanks for watching, and as usual, please like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference for this channel. Goodbye.